Welcome to Friarhouse Friday. I am so happy because I have my good friend, the wonderful James Braxton, and he really has been so kind. I contacted him a few weeks ago via DM, which he didn't know he even had DMs, but you do now.
And it's been a revelation.
and since then, I met up with James. I've nearly completed his book. Literally got a couple of chapters to go, but it's a real page turner and a credit to James. I mean, it's beautifully read. It's called Barty, A Tale of a Stolen Bronze. But anyway, James has agreed. I think. Well, I've really begged you to come, haven't I? I made you come.
No, you haven't. I felt so rude because you kindly rang a mutual friend of ours, the lovely Bill and Pat Bruce, didn't you?
Yeah.
The great clock dealer in Lewis, and Victoria said, "I haven't heard from James. And I've sent him a message. I wanted to come along, and then so Pat rang me up and said, could you ring Victoria? No, Bill rang me up and said, could you ring Victoria? I rang up, and then suddenly it was all revealed, my total lack of technological know-how in direct messaging on Instagram. And since you told me, I discovered one of my friends had ordered 10 books 3 weeks prior to that and everything. So I went through everybody, rang them all up or direct messaged them. And it's great.
Oh, so funny.
I've learned something, Victoria.
Well, I'm glad that I've taught you something, James.
Yeah.
I really am. So listen, guys, James is good. I've got James for like half an hour, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
We're going to try and talk through his backstory of his career, of how he started in this crazy world of antiques. And anyway, James, I mean, he's a natural, so he's going to be so great at this interview, I know. But James, do you want to tell us how did you, from a boy, from school days, how did it all start?
I don't know. How do we all get into something? I think, I didn't have a Damascus moment at the age of 6 or 8 saying I want to be a lawyer or a doctor. It's funny, isn't it? Quite a few of I've got some doctoring families, and that seems to be a very hereditary thing you might do.
Yeah, be a doctor.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I think I got into this through osmosis because my mother was very keen on art and antiques.
Yeah.
And, going round museums, going round country houses. And we're so lucky in England, aren't we, in Britain, having the National Trust.
Yeah.
So we have all these incredible houses, these great country houses that are preserved.
Yeah.
And you can potter around them, have fabulous gardens, don't they? I know the Americans love Hidcote, don't they?
Oh,
they all go to Hidcote in Gloucestershire, Oxfordshire, and
Highclere, Downton Abbey,
exactly,
yeah,
Blenheim, all those lovely places. And then, although I should say Blenheim is not in the National Trust, I think it's still with the Duke of Marlborough.
Is it? Oh, yeah, haven't sold it off yet.
And what a great place, because the Americans love Blenheim Palace because, of course, Winston Churchill was born there.
Yes.
And his mother was Consuela Vanderbilt, an American heiress. So that has huge resonance with our American cousins. And good morning, all. I think it's 10 o'clock in.
Yeah, we looked it up because we know that I've said to James, I've got a lot of American followers that are really keen to come on today.
Yeah.
So we said, right, I think New York, it's 10 a.m., isn't it?
10 a.m. now.
And LA, I don't know, it must be really early morning, I think.
7 o'clock now.
Yeah.
7 o'clock. So they're 3 hours behind.
Yeah.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
To have, we think we're in a big country. It takes forever to drive up to Scotland, doesn't it? But we're still in the same time zone.
Time zones. It's incredible.
Yeah.
But,
we digress. This is terrible, isn't it? We used to have this very funny comedy show called The Two Ronnies.
Yeah.
And Ronnie Corbett used to sit down in a chair. It was a sort of slightly formatted show. So Ronnie Corbett will sit down in a chair and tell a joke. And it took about 10 minutes to tell the joke. That was a very simple joke, but he went around the thing. So I had my mother, who was very keen on art and antiques, used to go around.
Yeah.
And then my grandfather would have, I think in different times, he would have been definitely an antique dealer. He accumulated some fabulous things, be they cars, be they garden statuary, be they furniture, pictures.
Yeah.
And that was the time. So that was, you know, he was a man of the 20s and 30s. Then you had the interruptive war years, and then he worked for a very large estate agent, Savills.
Oh, Savills, yeah, I know Savills.
Yeah, after the Second World War.
Yeah.
And he, you know, if you express any interest at that time, there was no cash around. There was lots of things, but no cash. If you express any interest in anything, they would say, "Oh, would you like to buy it?" So I think I grew up with lots of goodies around the home and interested.
And then when you left school, you worked up in London, didn't you? For a famous auction house.
No, I never.
Why did I think that?
I never did that. I did a year's course up in London.
Right, okay.
At the Inchbourne School of Design.
Yeah.
That was fine arts based, and it was great fun. We had all these fabulous lecturers who I think were paid in cash by the school's director, and we had this very glamorous lady who came from Spinks, who were the great. Oh, do you remember the Oriental dealers?
Spinks of London, know them. Yeah.
Just down from Christie's. In fact, Christie's bought them, I think, at one period. So we had a lovely lady from Spinks, and then we had the director of I think it was the Tate Britain, who was lovely, and he used to turn up in a tropical suit. You know, it was those lovely times where people wore great clothing, didn't they?
Yeah.
And he used to come in this sand-coloured thing, and I think the more I think about it, the older I get, a tropical suit does make sense because you've got a pocket for everything, haven't you?
But God, such great stories though, James. And then, so you did that, but then obviously decided to come back home and behave.
Yeah.
And became an auctioneer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I work for, as we know them, Gorringes in
a
Lewes.
local auction house, Gorringes, a little nod to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, they've been going since the beginning of time, which is lovely, and are still going in our county town of Lewes.
Yeah.
And so I did my grounding there. While I was there, I did my Charter Surveyors, and you know, it would have been a lot easier if I'd done this at university, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And had 3 fun years at university, and I didn't. So I worked at Gorringes. It took me 7 years to get my Charter Surveyors.
Did it?
They used to give me in turn time. They used to give me Thursdays off, and I used to go down to Southampton University on Thursdays, and I attended the terrible law lectures, which was tort and contract law and things like that, and then the economics, the boring bits, and I never really got to do the fun bits like the ceramics, the furniture, the silver.
Yeah.
And it took me 7 years.
Wow.
To get
it. And then when you were fully qualified doing that, then you were running your own auction house, weren't you?
Yeah.
Which is where I met you.
Exactly.
Edgar Horns.
Edgar Horns.
Yeah. Many moons ago, James. And
in sunny Eastbourne.
Yeah.
On the coast.
Yeah, in sunny Eastbourne. And then from doing that, how did your paths cross with getting TV work and being featured on this? How did they come? They just came and approached you, did they?
Yeah, well, I think you know the great thing about all our shows, you know, most of the shows I'm working on one at the moment. BBC produce broadcast a show called The Antiques Road Trip, where we go around in the old cars and everything.
I think it's a great idea.
It's
the car,
fun,
really good fun.
Yeah,
it always looks like you're having a real good laugh.
We do, and you know, you've got the old cars. You've got a sense of place because you're going to places, and then you've got the antiques. But always at the end, you know, that the sort of, you know, the Damascus sword of the whole thing. It comes down on you is the auction, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So they used to come. They were always, you know, all these programs. So, and when I was doing it, there was things like Cash in the Attic.
Oh yes.
There was Bargain Hunt, which is still going.
Yeah.
And as all part of their format is you have an auction.
Yeah.
So your items are sold by another, under the hammer.
Yeah. So they're creating like a bit of a build-up where you go, they follow the antiques experts around and source the pieces, and the idea, I suppose, is that you're going to find something that you're going to make a load of money on.
I know that. As we all know,
how hard is that, James?
That's very hard.
Yeah,
because we're always, the funny thing is, we're not filming at 6 o'clock in the morning in a car boot on.
No.
We start filming after we've done all the other bits to cameras, the intro. We're going around an antiques fair at about 10, 11 o'clock. Well, you have... What are you going to find? What time do you start?
Yeah,
go to a place?
I'm 5 a.m. sometimes even earlier. You know, and I must admit, when I've watched them and I see you all go round, and I think, God, they must really be scraping the barrel to find things. But
find them.
I was going to say, have you done particularly really well on something?
I remember years ago I did. I think it was bargain hunt. It was a bargain hunt, and we were.
That's ITV, guys. If anybody.
Yeah. And we were doing a bargain hunt, and it was at our local big antiques fair, Ardingly,
that's local to us, isn't it? Yeah.
In West Sussex, and just below Gatwick Airport, isn't it, really? Yeah. And I was going around that, and I was in one of the sheds. I think it was the Abergavenny shed.
Abergavenny,
Abergavenny shed. And I was going around, and there was a lovely lady with one of those trestle tables, and there was a portrait miniature. And I looked at it, and I thought, and she said the price was about, I think she charged me £50 for it. And I thought, this is good quality. It wasn't a pretty lady. It was a man, but it was...
They're often ugly men, though, aren't they, James?
Yeah. This was nice. He was a young man. He was very well executed.
Yeah.
Very well painted. I don't think we could do it now because it's on ivory, isn't it?
No, of course, yeah. With the new rules and regulations.
With the new rules and regulations, because these oval portrait miniatures, often in a nice leather case, aren't they? And they were painted with watercolour.
Yeah, and beautiful things.
Beautiful thing. And I sold that for £250. Oh. I didn't sell it, the auctioneer sold it.
The auctioneer sold it.
Yeah.
So, but there's always a couple of experts, isn't there? And then they have like families and they're going round.
Yeah.
So, but that was bargain hunt.
That was bargain hunt. And then I did, I've done lots of shows. I particularly like Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is, which was great fun show.
Did you came here with that one, didn't you?
I came and saw you. And the format of the show, it was great fun. We used to go, it was broadcast over 5 consecutive days. So, starting on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And we had to buy from an auction on one day.
Yeah.
We had to do a car boot on another day. Then we
exhausting all of this.
And then we had to do a foreign market.
Oh, that's fun.
So I remember went over to Belgium. I went to Waterloo.
Yeah.
And a lovely place called Tongeren.
Ooh.
And Tongeren is a bit like, I'd say, like going to Arundel or Rye.
Yeah.
It's a fortified town, and every Sunday, just antiques everywhere.
I've never heard of that. That must have been really fun.
Lots of jewellery. And the jewellery...
I have to go there.
The jewellery is often...
You've let the secret out, James. all the secret out of all the jewellers that buy in France.
Yeah.
You know, like they're all like, shh, don't tell anyone.
But the underground car parks are full of the jewellers.
Really?
So they're not outside.
And this is Belgium?
This is in Belgium. Oh. And you can go there by Eurostar.
Oh, there you go. Right. Well, he's left.
Well, we'll have to go to Tongeren.
Yeah, I would love to go. It's like in Paris, you know, in Clinicourt, around there. And I've been there a few times, but often I've gone there in August. Of course, everything's shut in August in Paris.
Yeah.
And I've never been lucky. But when I ever have asked on anything or seen anything, they ask so much money. It's almost like they actually do not want to sell it. Genuinely, they just want to keep it, and they're like a museum. And they have to ask like crazy money for things. But so we've talked about your TV career, and now we haven't got that long to talk about. And I think we need to cut to the chase, James.
What is it? The book. This is the
book.
Well, it's.
Come on.
Do you know? I think all books, a funny way, it's a culmination. I remember reading. There was a very famous journalist, A.A. Gill, and A.A. Gill, who's now died, was did millions of things. He was an artist. He did various other things, and then bizarrely he did a cookery. He used to.
Yes, that's what for cookbooks.
He used to have at his home, because he was rather good at cooking, he used to give lessons to people. So he'd have cookery classes in his home. And one of the people who came to the cookery classes said, why don't, have you ever thought about writing about this? Oh. And he said, no, I haven't. And she said, why don't you go and see this fellow? And the fellow happened to be the editor of the Sunday Times. And he went there and he'd proffered a couple of things. She said, look, send some items in. He sent some items in. And he went in there, and the chap chatted to him. He said, I really like what you've written. It's very unusual. And he said, I can't write because I'm too autistic. Not autistic. He was so dyslexic.
I didn't know that.
In the old days, you used to dictate on a telephone your copy to somebody back at base at the Sunday Times, probably in Fleet Street in those days, and they type it up and then send in the copy to the editor. He said, I really like it. And A.A. Gill sort of took it all in and thought, he said, I'd like to offer you a job. And he thought, I've done all these things in my life, and I feel as though I've come home. I feel I'm in the right place. Yeah,
that was his sort of fortuitous in life to be, because he was Sunday Times food.
Yeah. And he said, although he said, suddenly I also realised what I'd done before wasn't a waste.
No, but it led him, and I think that's what happens with all of us in life, isn't it? We've all got a path that takes us in a certain direction, and I mean, I think this business for me, and I guess for you, we're all quite odds. We're misfits, James, aren't we? Really?
Yeah, strange misfits.
Yeah, and we all come together, and somehow I feel like I've got an affinity with you because of what we do, and everyone that works for me in the shop.
We're all part of the same tribe, aren't we? Really?
Yeah, exactly. Tribe. It is a tribe, this antiques world, and somehow all of us. And I think I didn't realise. John said this about me. That I'm quite artistic, and I used to love art at school, but I never really followed that path, and I think that you are.
Yeah, I loved art at school.
Yeah.
I did. We used to have two lovely ladies. I went to a naval school. We didn't have...
Did you?
Yeah.
Was that strict?
Yeah, quite strict. But it was great fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was very robust, but perfect for boys.
Yeah.
And we had all male teachers, apart from two ladies in the art department, Diana Seidel and Janet Mackenzie.
You remember their names?
They were great fun.
Oh, you still remember their names?
Yeah, they were great influence on me.
They must have had, because the fact you still remember.
It was really good fun. We had great fun with them. But why I'm just mentioning A.A. Gill and all that sort of thing is the fact that I think, in a funny way, you draw, and this book is very much drawn from the antiques trade. It's drawn from another hat I wore owning a pub and restaurant. So you draw from all the experiences you had before.
The wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, and you bring them together and you try and communicate them.
Because I've nearly finished the book, guys. I took it on holiday with me last week, and I had a couple of days into it, but I felt poorly, so I couldn't finish it. So I've literally read nearly most of it all last night and this morning. I've got about 2 chapters left. But one of the things that really strikes me that I found, and I've spoken a bit to James about this with the book, I mean, it's not just obviously his passion of antiques, but you talk about A.A. Gill, the love of food, and how that really comes across in the book, recipes you talk about, and scenarios where you bring the characters together and they prepare a meal together, and they talk about the menu and the wine that goes with it. And if you're ever hungry reading this book, you're like, my goodness.
I know. I defy anybody to read that book without reaching for a glass of wine.
Yeah, that's the other thing, because that really resonated with me. That because I used to go to your pub, the Lamb in Watling, and always fantastic food, a lovely ambience, and you were often in there, and I'd have a drink with you and chat with you and speak to your sons and see Joanna, and it really was a really warm, welcoming, lovely place, in a beautiful little hidden away place, Watling, wasn't it?
It's just funny. Even the name seems odd, doesn't it? But it's really sweet, just immersed, and you look over that very historic, the Pevensey Marshes.
Yeah, it is.
Where William the Conqueror came.
Yeah, of course. It's so historical and, to this area, isn't it? And they're part of English history. But I just wanted to say, how old was that pub? It's really old, isn't it, James?
Henry VIII time. 1540. So the cellar and the main chimney stack, we had them dated at 1540. But, it's the evolution of building. So if you have a fire, the only thing that's going to be left of, and lots of these places had thatch roofs because it was cheap material. If you suffer a fire, the only thing that's going to be left is your chimney stack in your cellar. So you just build up again. Funny, isn't it?
But would you say that you learnt so much from doing that, from having the pub, the food, planning a menu, the restaurant, dealing with people, dealing with the public, dealing with staff?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
funny enough, I liked it. The book, as you've pointed out, is about people coming together, often around a table, the catalyst being food and wine. But one of the characters, two lead characters.
So that's Barty and Lionel you're talking about. Yeah.
Are bizarrely a similar age to me.
Yeah, because that was the other thing I was going to say. Because when I read it, I feel that you're Barty.
Yeah, do you?
Is that right? Or?
Yeah, I think it is. Barty's the gentler of the two.
Yeah.
And
sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, that's what an ambulance going to somebody in need.
Always happens on a Friday though. The ambulances come up here, but I hope they're all right.
Somebody's been in the high street. They've seen the price of something and they've collapsed, haven't they? Not surprising. But I think Barty's the generous one. Lionel finds himself in a pickle, doesn't he?
He seems so nice. And he's got himself in this situation.
Yeah, he's got
terribly embarrassing. He wants to do the right thing. Yes.
And actually, the lovely thing about this story, and I learnt this from Bargain Hunt, is it's not a very exotic, rare antique.
No.
This is something, it's to say antique, also we should
it's a repro, isn't it?
It's a repro, exactly. Totally. It's a repro. Made probably in the Philippines or China, come over in their hundreds in a 40-foot steel container.
Yeah.
And I know of another one. So my friend up in Northumberland has one in her hall. We have one in the hall. And the reason I wrote this book in the first place was we had, the front cover lot, we had this large quarter scale horse and...
Because it's big, isn't it?
It's big.
Yeah, it's big.
The jockey will stand up there because the horse is about that long. He stands up there, and we had it stolen from our garden. And
that started.
It started. We recovered it though because it came up in a local auction room.
So it came back,
and the timing was about right, and it was spotted by a friend. And I said, "Look, I've lost this item. I'd love to. I know there are others out there. Could you?" And he said, "Oh, James, I've found your item." I said, "Oh, great. How much? What's the sale estimate?" And he said, $400-600. And I said, "Well, that sounds all right. Oh, I'd like to leave a bid. Could you send me some photographs?" And he sent the photographs to me to my phone, and I looked at them, and I thought it had the same sort of discoloration.
You knew,
and I knew, and the timing was about right. It was about 8 weeks, and I said, "Peter, I think it's mine." So my next call was to the auction house, to the auctioneer, And he said, "Oh, right, I think you should ring the police and see what they want to do with it." Rang up the police. The police, regrettably, I wasn't there. My wife dealt with the detective who came to the house to take details and everything. This was after they'd released it to us.
Okay.
Yeah, and and John said he was delightful. He was so earnest, beautifully earnest. You know, what we can do all this, lots of all this sort of thing. And he is definitely that man. It suddenly materializes in the book.
In the book, so you
Sergeant Detective Inspector Kevin Smythe.
Yes, well, I've been reading. I think I've read. He's come up a few times. But I tell you where I am, James. I don't want to blow the cover for other people to read the book, which can be bought, by the way, on James Braxton's website. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah. But the two dodgy ladies with the horse box.
Two dodgy ladies, the lady gardeners.
Yes.
So they pinched it.
Yeah.
And then sold it for very little money to a scrap dealer in Wandsworth. I'm just trying. Ray, and you can imagine the picture. So Wandsworth is just over the River Thames in London, and Ray has this big scrap yard, and there is below his office is his gleaming Bentley, brand new Bentley.
Yeah, I love that.
Surrounded by crushed cars.
Yeah, because when you donate a chapter, don't you, to talk about that family? And the Bentley and the build up, and I love how you characterize. You know, there's a build up to all the characters, and you really do feel like you get lost in the book in each chapter. And one thing I find it quite hard to read when I'm at home. I prefer to read when I'm on holiday, because I think where I'm on social media a lot, on Instagram, James, my brain is, and it's bad. I do like to sometimes just detach from it, just to give myself a break. I think it's important for all of us to do that. But one thing that I think is lovely with your book is, from that moment, I'm just in your book, in the character, lost in that time. And there's something whimsical about the whole story. You know, it's very light and
it's gentle.
And
I had a comment sent to me after somebody had read the book.
Yeah.
He said, after reading your book, I'd like to live in that world. So it's very gentle, and you're right. It's also very immersive.
Yeah.
So you get drawn into it, and I've got. In that book, there are over 50 speaking parts.
Wow.
So there are 50 characters in that book. But again, the two central characters are Barty and Lionel.
So would you think you could ever be made into like a TV series or a little drama?
It would be fun.
It'd be lovely, wouldn't it?
I think it had, we're all influenced by things.
Yeah.
And we all love Lovejoy.
Yeah. We do.
Lovejoy.
Because you mentioned Lovejoy.
Of course I do. You've got to pay homage to Lovejoy.
It's
like doing a cookery programme without talking about Keith Floyd, isn't it?
Yeah, because I wonder if any of our American followers, I think they used to play Lovejoy. Because I've got a feeling...
Well, Ian McShane went out to Hollywood, didn't he?
Because I think he's been in a few big movies.
Yeah.
So people would probably know Ian McShane. So Ian McShane, before he was super famous, used to be in this English antiques drama called Lovejoy. And I think it was on Sunday evenings or something, James.
Lovely, wasn't it?
And it's, really, really used to enjoy
that. And the side characters was Tink, wasn't he? Who was always a nice sort of apple-shaped fellow in a tweed suit, three-piece suit.
I vaguely sort of recall what it was like. But he was a bit rough and ready.
He was rough and ready, and he was lurching from drink to drink, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But he was the brains. He knew he could connect everything. He was their point of reference. Of course, Ian McShane was the showman.
Yeah.
He was the antique dealer. He sold the stuff.
And he was very rugged, good-looking, wasn't he?
David Essex, wasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And all this funny mullet business. He had a mullet hairdo.
He did.
In a way,
I remember.
Yeah, it was great. Great fun. So there's that. Also another influence, P.G. Wodehouse. I've always loved.
Yes. Well, that's John who's videoing us now. John and I were chatting about James before he came, before we welcomed our TV celeb to Friarhouse. John said John hasn't read it, but he's had a flick through. And you said P.G. Wodehouse, didn't you?
Yeah, that's the first thing. The first line. I thought, oh, I'm back in that world.
Yeah, quite. Blanding Scott. I want it. It's total escapism. Also, I've written it rather like P.G. Wodehouse. Nobody can imitate his incredible use of words and things. But I formatted it so it would be really easy to read. And it's how I read. It's got 50 chapters in it. 357 pages. And you can read a chapter or a couple of chapters every night. It's not arduous. You don't suddenly, sometimes, when you're a bit tired, you look through and think, oh goodness, 20 pages. There are not 20 pages.
I think I'll read one chapter and I'm like, oh, no, I've got to read another one. Well, you know how you've written it. It's very, and I feel like each chapter is like a little mini story of a character build up of the journey. And that's why for your first book, I mean, honestly, James, I really credit to you because it's everyone, you've got to read it. You'd really enjoy it if you love antiques. And James is such a nice man. And the book really is. I'm not just saying this. It's such a good book. So, but is there going to be another one?
Yeah, there's going to be.
Barty?
No, funny enough, I allude to it, I won't tell you, but in one of the penultimate chapters of the book, Barty and Lionel are going around an antiques fair, and Lionel gets a phone call, and it's from an auctioneer called Ollie Croyd in London, and he's telling Lionel, would it be all right if he took the 2 Chinese vases with him to a sale in Hong Kong? And so I'll just leave you that. The next book is set in Sri Lanka.
Oh, I love it!
Because
that's amazing.
And it's called The Crocodile Stone. And I'll be definitely chatting to you,
Victoria, we'll have to
about a huge royal blue sapphire.
I'm hooked. I want to be the first one on to get your book.
This changes lives. So it's a raw, and Lionel is charged with smuggling it out of Sri Lanka.
Oh,
because
James,
of course
that's such a good
Sri Lanka
story.
is so controlled.
Yeah.
So he I don't know if I can mention smuggling.
No,
probably not.
No.
Anyway,
oh, don't worry.
It magically comes to Europe.
Yeah.
And
but this is all fiction. It's all made up.
Fiction.
It's all a made up story. It's just that's it.
And I haven't quite decided where it's going to be cut. It's either going to be cut in Antwerp or in Amsterdam.
I think you should cut it in Antwerp.
Do you think? Cut it in Antwerp?
Yeah.
Okay. So that is
the best
centre,
stone cutters, I think, maybe are in Antwerp. Okay. I'm honestly, I heard that from sort of quite a good source. Yeah. So I think.
Okay. So noted. So I'm on chapter 40 of this book already. So
have you got you? Because can you show? You've got your.
This
I want to show you guys.
This
is what James does. It's amazing.
So funny enough, I was reading an interview the other day. So this is my new book. This is The Crocodile Stone, about the large sapphire, and I will write in longhand. And
it's so nice.
I'm of an age. I did all my exams. My exams were English, history, geography. Were 3-hour exams, weren't they?
Yeah.
And we wrote everything down.
Yeah.
So
because they don't now, kids, do they? I think it's all Well,
I read an interview of J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter, and she's writing her Cormorant Strike series at the moment. Yeah. And she writes in longhand because I think probably you and I are very visual people.
Yeah, we are. I am.
And I like the pattern of words. I like the pattern of words. So that's how I write. And then after I've done that, I get my laptop out and I try and use the dictating tool, which is woefully poor.
Because I can't imagine you typing it.
I do type bits, so if I'm if I'm on a train and I have to be quiet, I type. But normally I dictate into it, and come on, Apple, get a better dictating tool on your iMacs, please. So I do that, and then I relay it. I put it all onto the thing, and then when you finished it, as I found out with this, I took this to a very kind friend invited me to Sri Lanka to a literary festival, which I went to in February.
I'd have loved to have gone to something like that.
It was
and
great.
Sri Lanka, I would love to go to Sri Lanka as well.
It's hot.
Yeah, but the people, Sri Lankan people are lovely, aren't they?
The food is lovely.
Yeah.
Where in the world can you go and have a King Edward potato, a beetroot, and then have 4 varieties of banana, all in the one country?
Did you watch cricket when you were there? Are you a cricket boy?
I watch a bit.
Yeah.
But everybody is watching cricket.
Yeah, they love cricket, don't they?
So your taxi driver who's driving you is watching cricket on his phone.
I love that.
One eye on the score, one eye on the road.
Oh God, that's so funny.
Fun.
But James, so where can you? I want you to plug, because this has got to be the best plug for your book. Where can people go? So if they want to go, but if they're watching this now and they finish and we go and I want to get that book. Where can they get that book now?
Go on to my website. Very easy. The World Wide Web. jamesbraxton.com. Go on to it. Fill out. I've got the US. So if you're phoning from the US, you can buy it. You just pay postage. I think you pay an extra $9.99 for postage to the US. But I can tell you, I subsidise that. I think cost me about £19 or £20 to send to the US.
Yeah,
it's really affordable. But if I have enough orders, I might send it to a friend in the US.
Yeah, we can get
mail it. Yeah. Then they can mail it locally.
Yeah.
It's just getting it over the pond.
Yeah, we can sort that out. What I'll do is when we finish the live, I will share on the stories, and I'll put a link to James's website so you can just buy the book directly. The other thing that I was saying with James, because he's kindly brought these in, so if anyone's local to us, fairly local, you can come to us and buy them from us. I've said to James that I'll be his agent. No, but for the book, I will. We're happy to, if anyone's local to Battle and wants to pop in. Would you sign those for us, James?
Of course I will.
Yeah. So if anyone, and honestly, it's a lovely book. So what is it, £9-10, James?
Yeah, £10. And this is, so we're now selling, so you've got, what's your one? Yeah, yours is the first edition. So I had a print run, specially done for the Literary Festival in Ceylon.
Yeah.
I have 500 of those printed. They ran out about a month ago.
Yeah.
So I've had 1,000 printed of this is my new edition here. And very similar, but you now have a barcode and an ISBN number, which retailers find absolutely vital. I've yet to post it on Amazon, and I think that's where everybody buys their books.
Yeah.
But if I post it on Amazon,
well, you're not going to make any money, are you?
I'll get absolute pence, because there are too many hands in the till, aren't there?
Yeah. But we're happy to, sell some for you from here if anyone wants to come in.
Thank you.
And also you get the signed copy if you come in from James.
Signed and numbered.
So, we're going to do that. I had a couple of little questions because we are going to finish shortly, but just I wanted to ask you, that I do often ask people on lives, if you had a dinner guest, from history, from past, who or even a few, but who would you choose as a dinner? I know these are like random podcast questions almost, but I'm just interested because James, with his love of cooking and I think I know what you're going to say.
Keith Floyd would have to be there.
Oh my God, he'd be amazing. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Hopefully we get him pre-drinks. I don't want him to come preloaded. So Keith Floyd would definitely have to be there because he would. A very funny story. One of the if you haven't read Keith Floyd's autobiography, and he wrote it.
Yeah, I didn't even know he'd done one.
And he wrote it in the last year of his life because he woke up after collapsing from liver failure in a hospital in Australia.
Yeah.
And the doctor said to him, "Now, Mr. Floyd, if you carry on as you are, I will give you 9 months. If you suddenly become a monk overnight and stop all earthly pleasure, you may live longer." And Keith Floyd thought, that's about enough time to write a book. So he wrote this fabulous book, which is a great story. So Keith Floyd would be there. Who else would be? I think P.G. Woodhouse would be there. He was fascinating because P.G. Woodhouse made so much money in the 1920s and 30s writing scripts for Hollywood movies.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he would be a fascinating person. I think everybody, you know, I don't know what company he would be. Henry VIII would be fascinating to see, wouldn't he? Because he was regarded as a great giant of his age. He was 6 foot tall.
When he was younger, though, don't you think? Because when he was older, I think he just thought, we won't go there.
A bit disease-ridden. I think he was a man in pain, wasn't he? Who else would be there? Come on, of the lady.
Gandhi.
Sorry?
Gandhi.
No, not really interested in Gandhi.
No.
I'm not political. Do you know, the older I get, the more disinterested I become.
Yeah, I understand that. I just think sometimes it's interesting, people that have had, you know, or been through really awful experiences and come out the other side, prevailed, you know, would be quite interesting.
They would be. But
if they're truthful.
Artistically, what about somebody like Hogarth?
Yeah.
That would be fascinating.
Or Picasso.
Picasso.
Monet.
Or, you know, those great impressionists. Or somebody like Huguenot, Paul de Lamoureux, the great silversmith.
Yeah, yes.
Carl Fabergé.
Yeah, Carl Fabergé. Oh my God, Carl Fabergé.
Carl Fabergé.
Yeah, we're going down a real rabbit hole here of just master craftsmen, of skilled artists. And I mean, you know, my speciality was obviously jewellery, and you're really a master of all, aren't you? That's what you say.
But the funny thing was, Carl Fabergé.
He made everything, didn't he? Yeah.
Turn of the century, i.e. 1900, he employed 20,000 people.
I didn't know that. Wow.
20,000 people. He was the great luxury good manufacturer.
Yeah.
And they were in St. Petersburg and Moscow.
Yeah.
And all these people were making these fabulous things for all
under the house of
Europe.
So under the house of Carl Fabergé, he had all these masters.
All these people working for him.
Yeah.
And he was retailing them in Moscow and in St. Petersburg. And probably, I don't know, he must have had maybe concessions in Paris and all the other places. But all the royal families, you know, you go to Buckingham Palace and in the Queen's Gallery next door, they've got these fabulous cabinets of hard stone animals by Carl Fabergé. Yeah. And then that's before you even get to the Easter eggs.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an Aladdin's cave of going into all the things that he did. I mean, I have to say, whenever I've seen any jewellery, if ever I've viewed an auction, and sometimes things are missed, you know, they don't know, and I'm looking and I think, that's Fabergé. You just the hallmarks, even without seeing the signatures, you know the signs of quality and craftsmanship of a piece from him. But anyway, James and I, I've got all these, and I haven't even referred. I just knew, I just talked to him, and we could go in this direction, that direction. We could just keep talking. But we're going to round it up. But before we go,
what's this?
Well, James Braxton.
Oh, should I be standing or sitting?
I want to present to you.
Oh, look at this! It's a lovely lady.
The Parian lady, the award for the best antiques TV expert 2024. Do you accept?
I do very much. What an honour! And do you know, Victoria? I think I've had this before, haven't I?
Do you want to tell everyone? We're being a bit cheeky. We're being naughty here.
Well, this lovely semi-clad tambourine girl, I actually sold to you.
Yeah, you bought her.
I bought her.
Yeah.
And it was for a programme called Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is.
He came here to the shop with her.
About 10 years ago. And I always like these because these Parian figures, so named after the island of Paros, which is famous for its white marble.
There he goes. He knows.
So it's ceramic. You know, there are lots of manufacturers here. But when you think these things,
she is lovely.
This is before gas and electric.
What age is she?
So she's sort of, I would say she's classic Edwardian, so 1900, 1910. So in Britain, there was a huge housing boom in this period, all prior to the First World War. There was a huge housing boom, and when you build a house, you've got to furnish it. Haven't you?
Yeah, exactly.
And this is made in up in Staffordshire, and this incredible white porcelain. With this Parian ware, it was known as. It's not really porcelain because it's not translucent.
No,
it's a sort of bisque.
Matte. It's very matte, isn't it?
It is.
It
is sort of slightly eggshelly, isn't it?
But she is. I mean, when you see the detailing, the tambourine and her
incredible
robe,
moulding, isn't
it really. It's beautiful.
Oh, sorry.
Made.
Hold on. I say I'm going to get found out, aren't I? It is Parian porcelain. So look, there's the tambourine. I can look through the translucence of the tambourine. Can you look at it? The light. Can you see that? The translucence
through the tambourine. Can you see that, John, in the video?
Yeah. So it's translucent. You'll probably see a finger there.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
But anyway, you'll be pleased to know that she's been pride of place.
Excellent.
In our window, and we sometimes dress her with a pendant or a bit of jewellery. And I don't know, the window's off empty if she wasn't in there. So
she's supervised.
Yeah. So I just thought it'd be quite funny to present you with your award.
Can I take it away, Victoria?
No. We're only pretending. Oh, James, I've really, really enjoyed this chat. I mean, it was so nice of you, because I'm always interviewing people and splitting the screen, doing it virtually. And you were like, no, I'm going to come to the shop. And I was like, really? And we didn't know how it was going to work, because the fact that we're sitting with each other rather than split. But I think it's worked really well, don't you?
It's been really lovely. And, I only live 10 minutes away from here.
Yeah, I know. So
we both live on pretty well the same road, don't we?
Yeah.
You're slightly nearer, I'm slightly further away. But, I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, James, thank you.
No, thank you, Victoria.
Thank you.
Really lovely. Really enjoyed it. And I hope people enjoy the book. I had a lovely comment the other day. A lady had received the book, and she'd come home from work, and she thought, right, when I go to bed, I'm going to read. She said, I normally go to bed and I want to get to sleep by about 10:30. And she sent me a message at 12:30.
I can see that. Yeah,
I love it. I'm still reading it.
Yeah. Well, and if you do struggle to sleep, I think a book. Put your phone down.
Yeah.
Don't plug it in near your bed, which we all say and we do. but even just read a couple of chapters of James's book, because actually that's what I was doing, and I was fighting because I wanted to read to the next chapter, and my eyes were getting heavy. But you do. I think it helps you to sleep. Actually, reading, don't you?
I when I can't sleep, I read, because it clears. It sort of delegates your brain elsewhere.
It quietens things down.
Yeah.
I think when you breathe, you just become more calm and just insulate into that world of the book. But on that note, I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to come round, guys, because John doesn't want to cut the video off. We're all going to go. Do you want to say goodbye, James?
Goodbye, and I hope you enjoy the book.
Right, okay. There we go. Right, okay.